Tonight, a conversation from across the border. We take you to Magere village, Chadondo sub-county, Wakiso district, that's in Kampala, Uganda. Rising political star, outspoken member of parliament, and an accomplished musician. He's now the subject of state crackdown, brutally beaten together with 32 others, detained, charged with treason, detained in a military facility, and sent abroad for treatment. Later, a personal reflection on an artistic impression, and back in time, on time by. It's bold, it's candid, and it's open. But first, my take. Now, what started as an isolated call for referendum to change the constitution are steadily gaining momentum, and although the default reaction will be to ignore them, doing so may be imprudent. We acknowledge the right from the onset that no constitution is perfect. The current one has very positive reviews and is characterized as robust and progressive. Even so, its deficiencies seem to be where identities before the passage in 2010. But the framers of the Constitution were alive to the fact that the Constitution should not be subject to whimsical changes, and provided first that a long implementation period and second stipulated high thresholds should be necessary for revision to obtain. Now, the increased calls for constitutional change are not inspired by selflessness. On the contrary, they are triggered by the selfish interest driven by politicians, either for self-preservation or to create opportunities for personal gains. First, a narrative is being peddled that the constitution is too expensive. That is the reason for increased taxes, hence need for review to chop excess fat. Now, that is not the honest discussion. A critical review of the budget shows that we suffer due to planning, that's poor planning, poor thought out political decisions, irresistible appetite for borrowing, inefficiencies, pilferages, and outright theft. Now, to be sure, Kenyans had reasons to create the new institutions of governance. Precisely, the objective was to dispense power from the center and divest in many institutions. Now, this was informed by the experience of the independent constitution that became of colonial heritage, inherited institutions that ostensibly lorded over citizens, and which with time became too oppressive and suffocated democracy, and which cannot be cheap. At the rate, the alternative is catastrophic. Secondly, and quite ominously, the push for a referendum is driven by succession politics. Now, those speaking or seeking to ascend to power are those rooting for self-preservation. They are pulling everyone else into the noise, which at this point in time is quite unnecessary. If it's not lost that as the calls grow louder, the constitution has not been fully implemented. Now, several provisions, among them the gender equality law, has not come to pass. In other words, it's premature to contemplate constitutional changes. And three, the timing and the circumstances are not right. Now, the referendum is very expensive, and more so when laced with the politics of successions. Now, the country is still reeling from the acrimonious election last year that created deep divisions that are yet to heal. So it's injusticiable to contemplate going through a referendum anytime soon. Not only will it raise temperatures, but entrench existing divisions and create even new fault lines. Now, we cannot afford that. This is the time for economic recovery, political reconciliation, and creating social stability. Calls for referendum are premature, as they only serve to divert attention from the matters to the citizens, or matters that matter to the citizens. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, the human voice can never reach the distance that is covered by the still small voice of consciousness. And so my guest tonight, Robert Kyangulanyi, he's Uganda's Member of Parliament for Chadondo East constituency, also popularly known as Bobi Wine. My name is Ken Mijungu. Join the conversation online at NTV Kenya at Ken Mijungu. The SMS feedback line is 20686. Sidebar begins right now. Thank you for welcoming us to your home. Let me start. I'd like to speak about your relationship with the president. But before then, let me get this out of the way. The fact that you are out of the country for 3 weeks and you are back. How is your health right now?
Well, all I can say is that I'm better than yesterday. You know, every day I get stronger and the pain reduces.
Okay.
And I believe in a while I'll be full.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did the doctors tell you when you went to the US? Because you had an option, they took you to the hospital here first, and then you had to go to the US.
Yeah, I was treated here thanks to my doctors in Rubaga, and I was referred for specialized treatment, and that I will not go into right now.
No, you don't want to go to the details of the specialized treatment, but you're okay. And this now opens a discussion for what really happened in Aurora, because that's where it started.
Yeah.
Yes, what really happened in Aurora?
Well, we had gone to Aurora for campaigns, but again, the president was there also. Whatever happened, but ultimately, my driver was shot dead. And I believe it was an assassination attempt on me, because I was sitting in the place where Yasin sat just a few minutes later. So my driver was shot dead, and I was brutally arrested together with other people, beaten so bad, tortured, you know, and then detained. I was detained in a military facility where the government, you know, brought 2 machine guns and claimed they found
that you had firearms in your room, in your hotel.
But later on, those charges were dropped.
Okay.
But I was later arrested again and charged with treason. I will not go in the details of that case because it's in court.
It's in court.
But anyway, I am here. I would rather look at the positive, not the negative. Okay. I know that I'm alive, and I know that, you know, God is on side of what is right.
Okay. For the Kenyans who are watching this, they don't really understand the stakes that were at Aurora. What were the stakes like? Because you were supporting an independent candidate and the president was supporting his candidate from the party?
Well, the president was supporting a member of his ruling party, you know, and I was supporting an independent candidate, the Honorable Kassiano Wadri, and I'm glad he won. And it was basically a contest of ideas, like it is supposed to be, you know, yeah.
Okay.
And we won.
We also saw at Aurora later there were claims that your entourage, you party members, you supporters, not party members, but supporters, stoned the president's car. Is this one of the charges that have been brought against you?
Yeah, basically that's the basis of the charges.
Yeah.
Yeah, against us. Yeah.
Okay. This is not the first time you're getting into such a verbal exchange with the president, but you have been very consistent and vocal about the change that supposedly should come to Uganda. Yeah. When did this journey begin? When did you realize there is need for some change in Uganda?
It's been a while, man, you know. Like you must have been seeing, I was just an artist doing my music and having my fun and making my money. I was making some good money, by the way. You know, all was good and it didn't matter to me until, you know, one of the many, you know, memorable days, I had just bought my new Escalade when I was attacked and beaten by a member of the security forces simply because I was driving an expensive car. Okay. So that hurt me, but again opened my eyes to the injustices that have been going on that I'd never paid attention to. And actually that's how my music began to change fundamentally, from just usual singing to issues that affect the people. Yeah. Yeah, and it was like that until just recently when I saw that maybe it's better to not just stop at singing about it, but actually take an active role in trying to change that. Yeah.
And one of the songs that you sang, I know about the Freedom Song.
Yeah.
The Freedom Song that has been hugely popular. I'd like to get a quote that I'd like you to react to regarding your stand in several things. You say, when leaders have become misleaders and mentors have become tormentors, when freedom of expression becomes the target of oppression, opposition becomes our position. Talk to me about that quote.
Yeah, when leaders become misleaders, you know, our leaders used to be good leaders, you know. Our president used to be one of the best African revolutionaries. You know the stories. He was a great revolutionary. And when our mentors become our tormentors, when I look at our president when he was around my age, the words we were saying, that's the best example to follow. And that's why we are following into that line, you know, to resist what is wrong. Although for us, we think it's better and more civilized to resist peacefully, like we are doing.
So it's not been peaceful, Bobby. It's not been peaceful for you.
Well, yeah, but on our side, we try to, you know, to stick to the rules, to the values. And our values is not hurting anybody, but asserting your right and making somebody know what is right and what is wrong, what hurts the neighbor, and what you know, makes you live in peaceful coexistence. Okay. You know, so that's why I say when mentors become tormentors, you know, opposition becomes our opposition.
Are you specifically referring to someone in that song?
Not someone per se, because the situation here in Uganda, in my opinion, now is not, although it anchors on an individual, but it's not only for an individual to salvage. Okay. You know, so that is why I think I'm not referring to a person, but to a group of people.
Okay. Yeah. But even the oppressors, I mean, if you look at your plight, if you look at what took you to the hospital, if you look at the reasons why you're facing treason charges in court right now, if you look at the reason why you walk dragging one leg, you know, it's because of the oppression. Don't you feel from where you sit as an independent parliamentary representative that there is someone who's targeting you?
Yeah. Although I'm a member of parliament, I would rather communicate to you and indeed to all my Kenyan brothers and sisters as a common person, because I don't go there to represent being an MP. No, I was already an artist, but I go there to represent that common voice, the same that I represent, yeah? So when I'm being targeted, is to ensure that the targeted and already affected millions and millions don't rise up. Okay. You understand? Okay. If I'm beaten for speaking out what I believe is right, you know, look, take a closer look, a wider look and see how many wananchi get beaten. And then you realize that others get beaten in a different way. So yes, I am targeted, but because I try to open the eyes of those people that are oppressed. Do
you believe specifically that President Museveni is targeting you as Bobby or as Robert?
I would hate to reduce this whole issue to just me or just President Museveni. No. This is an issue of more than 40 million people. Okay. The Ugandans that are misgoverned, the Ugandans whose future continues to be uncertain, the Ugandans that die every day giving birth, those Ugandans that live with big ideas and big aspirations, yet the conditions don't make it any possible for them to achieve that. Okay. So I think this conversation should widen beyond Museveni or beyond Bobi Wine, and we start looking as Ugandans or as East Africans, the kind of population we want to be, the kind of people we want to be, and that depends on the kinds of leaders that we have. Yeah.
Specifically, the reason why I'm asking this question, you had a press conference earlier in the week, and among the things you said, let Ugandans go. You're referring directly to the president.
Yes. 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 The president is too powerful that he gives these you know, views that are disrespectful and oppressive to the people, and he does not seem to care. You know, for example, he knows that we are enslaved in the poverty, we are enslaved by the overtaxation, but at the same time he says for him He is nobody's servant, you know. And yet leaders are
works
supposed
for his
to be
grandchildren and himself.
You don't say that to us, and yet we are the ones who pay taxes.
Okay.
You get what I mean? You have to free us so that we can decide which kind of leader will serve us according to our comfort, not according to our discomfort.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course you reminded him at the press conference that
Yes.
a time will come when he will not have the power.
Yes.
And you'd like him to imagine what it will be at that time when he doesn't have power.
Yes.
Why is that necessary at this time?
No, listen, when President Museveni was my age, yeah, he promised so much, and that is the Uganda that our fathers envisioned.
Okay.
The reason why our uncles and aunties sacrificed their lives. You understand? So we cannot be promised a raw deal. You try to get what I mean? So the ideals of freedom that he held when he was our age, he must know that we are also Ugandans like him, who hold them. So, you know, we've got to be allowed to decide our destiny.
Don't you think that's happening? Because you go to the ballot every so often to vote for another leader. It's just that NRM has been taking power from other people who've been contesting. Straight from my mind, I'm thinking of Kizza Besigye.
My brother, if the democracy you're talking about is the democracy when you go to campaign for a different candidate from that of the president, and all you receive is beatings and killings from the security forces that guard the president, that is not democracy, that is democracy. You understand? We've got to live by what is written in the book. We have a constitution that is not followed, where people do not have rights at all, you know. So a fallacy of democracy should be replaced by real democracy. The real democracy that we, you know, hoped for. The real democracy that a huge price was paid for. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, aside from that, I'm just still dwelling on the subject of you and the rest of Ugandans who are with you in this struggle, and people watching from outside that think you're being targeted. Is it also because last year you were at the forefront of the debate on the age limit?
In Uganda here, anybody that opposes what the president thinks becomes an enemy. And once they declare you an enemy, they are going to lose all morality and do all the immoral things. It will be remembered that me, together with many other members of parliament, were attacked on the floor of parliament, severely beaten. Some have not actually recovered fully from that. And then, you know, we were incarcerated but later released. So since then, my house was attacked, bombs were thrown on the room of one of my children. Many things have been going on until the most recent. However, that is not supposed to deter us, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that brings in the question, Bobi, of how far you can push this. We have seen the people in the struggle before you. How far can you push this?
Well, I wish this would be the farthest. I even wish we didn't have to get here, because elsewhere, for example in Kenya, you guys are living freer, although of course I know that it can also be better. But, you know, as a person, I made a resolve that I will not be anybody's slave in my own homeland. And for as long as I still feel injustice, I will fight injustice for as long as I live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to talk more about your involvement in that struggle and how you intend to push it. When you were elected member of parliament, one of the things you said is, I'm going to stand up for issues. I'm here to give the young people confidence. That is after you became a member of parliament. Yeah. What was in your mind then? What is this confidence you wanted to give the young people?
You see, man, where I come from, yeah, young people rarely believed in themselves because of the stereotype, because of the usual status quo. But when I realized that we can be better than we are, that we can achieve more than we have already achieved, and we can actually be more than we have been convinced we are, you know, I did not just want to explain to young people, I wanted to demonstrate.
To show them practically.
Exactly, and that's why I ran for that office. And even after I won, I wanted my actions, I had a different mind, but there's no way I could just explain it in songs or in public speeches. I wanted to demonstrate it, and that's why I'm trying as much as possible to show the young people out there what they should do.
But even when you were running, Bobby, did you believe you would win? It was a by-election. You went there, a favorite of the people. Of course, you're a big artist in the country, a philanthropist, a businessman. But when you ran for the by-election, was your mind set on winning?
Yes, man. I knew I would win. You know why?
No.
I used to talk to people, especially young people, from all over the country, and particularly in my constituency. You know, every time I go to, for example, the washing boy to have my car washed, I'm going to chill with them and have a conversation. Or when I go to hold a show, but I'm yet to go to stage, I used to have conversations. And the ideas used to seem the same. Okay. These young people needed hope, needed confidence, you know, and they needed to hear the things I was telling them. Things like you can actually achieve what you imagine in your mind. Because the young people in Uganda are on social media with the young people in Kenya, and they envision the same things, you know. So me, I am here just to give more evidence and confidence, because
it's possible.
It's possible, man. I'm a ghetto youth. Look where I am, right here with you, Ken. So that means any ghetto youth can get here or even higher, for as long as they, you know, position their minds to what is positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just mentioned you're a ghetto youth, and when you were at the ghetto, you were called the Ghetto President.
Yeah.
I'll talk about your ambitions if you intend to be president, and if you're pushing that. But I'm also interested in the youth aspect, in that, don't you think at one point, Bobby, you became the voice that rallies the youth? And I'm just trying to be nice and not say inciting youth.
Well, first of all, even if you said I was inciting the youth, I would definitely disagree with you. Because I think calling upon young people to change their behavior, to drink less and work more, to talk less and act more, to think about what is good and embrace it and reject what is bad, I don't call that inciting. Okay. Maybe if the devil said I'm inciting against the devil, you know. So that started, you know, quite a while ago through my music, and it is the way I've been living. The more I grow, the more I try to see what is right and show it to the younger ones. Yeah, you must remember, I never used to be serious about life the way I am. I was a young man before, and I did my crazy things before. But the more one grows up is the more one learns through the things and tries to paint a good road for those ones to come after him.
So you say, in your words, the way you frame them, you're not inciting the youth?
I'm definitely not inciting the youth.
Okay. On the 6th of September, you sat with the BBC and had an interview, and what you said is young people to stand up, you will continue to call on the young men not to give up, to stand up and continue pushing so as to get the freedom and the dignity they deserve.
Yeah.
Yes.
They deserve the dignity, man. You see where we are? This is the land of our grandfathers. They worked so hard to get us here. You understand? And we must be dignified citizens, because the Constitution was written and it puts it puts the citizen higher. We must be dignified. We must be respected. Our future must be guaranteed. Okay. We must not have an uncertain future. So any young person out there that has an uncertain future because of the excessive loans that the government is taking, which loans are going to be paid by him, he has the right to stand up and say, no, okay, you're driving me towards the wrong road. You know, I want to go this way. This is what I want to envision. This is where I want to go. Mm-hmm. You know.
Don't you think in those words you're basically encouraging them, but also in a way cleverly inciting them when you tell them to stand up and reclaim your freedom, reclaim your dignity?
No. People deserve dignity, and if dignity had another word, I would use it.
Not in doubt, but the words you use, stand up.
Yes. You've got to stand up. You've got to speak up. Okay. You've not got. Don't sit down and keep quiet. Okay. Stand up and talk. It is constitutionally guaranteed. Our constitution allows it. Our constitution allows peaceful protest. Our constitution allows us to sensitize each other, to open each other's minds. And actually, our constitution provides for the government to make sure everybody learns about the constitution. Now, Article 1 of our constitution says power belongs to the people. So for us, we're just anchoring all our ideas on Article 1 of our constitution.
Your ideology of power belonging to the people and the president's ideology of the power belonging to the people are totally different. Bobi, stay with me. I'd like to come back and talk about that. And when we come back now, we'll not talk about Bobi. We'll be talking about Robert Kyangulanyi, the Member of Parliament of Chadondo East constituency. We take a short break right here on Sidebar. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Fill your own bet. What's the winning team? Who will score? Who will get carded? How many corners and more action in the same match? Get more into the game only from Sport Pesa.
When the going gets tough, the tough must get going. Especially when leaders become misleaders and mentors become tormentors. When freedom of expression becomes a target of suppression.
Welcome back to Sidebar. Let's talk briefly about Situka. This song majorly, if you look at the theme and all, it's about awakening the Ugandans, you know. They have to come to the realization about insecurity and corruption and all. Talk to us about Situka. What was in your mind in that song?
That song, I released it in 2016.
Yes.
After the elections, the general elections. We had so much hopes, but you know, as it has been reported before, the election was rigged and there were lots of irregularities. But worst of all, the whole city was besieged by soldiers, and people could not do anything. So Dr. Besigye was closed, was arrested from his house.
Put under house arrest.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a sad feeling, not only with me, but I believe with many people out there. So many people lost hope. Yeah. And of course, when I was thinking, I did not just think about them. I thought about so many people who tend to lose hope when terrible things happen to them. Okay. So I sang that song, you know.
At that time, did you think you'll get into politics, active politics, and not as opposed to just expressing yourself through your songs and art?
No.
You hadn't contemplated getting to parliament?
I'd thought about it some time ago, but I had not told anybody, really. You know, many times it did not, you know, come to me that I will run. So me running for parliament, it was more of an emotional decision.
Okay.
You know, where you're like, okay, now who's going to say this? But hey, why don't I get there? Why don't I go there? So I was just with Nubian Lee, my friend, having a chat, and then I brought the idea to him.
Okay.
And he seemed to agree with me, but we did not talk about it for a few more months until there was an opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to know, from what you say, why was it an emotional decision for you at that time?
I would say it came out of, you know, desperation, like not having somebody to say it for me the way I feel, you know.
The way you can say it.
The way I felt I could say it.
Okay.
And I really felt I could say it, you know. I was determined, I'd resolved, you know. So I put my foot forward.
In this journey now, as a member of parliament, you seems to have thought about it. Now there's a new ideology you are planting in people's minds. You have been the ghetto president for the longest time, and part of the reasons why a lot of people believe that you are targeted is because you want to run for president of Uganda.
Well, whoever thinks like that has their own reasons, but as for me and the people who I work with, we are more concerned with opening the conscience of the people, because we believe that's the most important thing, you know, for people to open their eyes to the situation where they are, and indeed to even further open their eyes to the power that they have right in their own hands. If we succeed in that, it is not a matter of what position, what anybody takes now. It is about all of us waking up to the fact that we can actually decide where we want to go.
Okay. As at now, as Robert Kyangulanyi, you are not thinking of running for president in 2021?
I would think that's diversionary, really. How can you even start thinking for president to be president if you're not free? You understand?
Okay.
So we are trying to get like minds together, and then, I mean, who leads us to whatever destination does not take any time to decide for, as long as you are where you're supposed to be, which I believe we're not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this particular time, you don't have a political party. You are an independent candidate. In fact, no one can make a guess about what party you will be able to run in. You're an independent candidate. But one of your allies, that Mugisha Mutu, just resigned, and he's your ally. And a lot of people are now thinking what I'm thinking. Are you thinking what we are thinking, that there is a way you are forming or realigning on this?
Well, we've been working together with like-minded people from different political parties, from the FDC, from the Democratic Party, even from the NRM. Even if these comrades had issues in their parties, we were working on the common principle that we all want a Uganda free of dictatorship.
Okay. And
And yes, we will continue doing that, working with all like-minded people, brothers and sisters, you know, regardless of what, you know, controversies exist in parties, you know. We now believe that we just need to come together, and it's going to require all of us to come together,
okay,
which I believe we can achieve, and
okay,
we will achieve.
Okay. Yeah. And under your ideology, you talk about people power, our power. What is the clock for, and why is it at exactly 3 p.m.?
Now that's a good one. When I was running for MP, I used the clock. And that clock, after using the clock, people drew a meaning out of it, especially the young people. They started, you know, showing all the politicians that don't represent them that it's time for change. It is time for the new generation. It is time. So it started making more sense than just a clock. And yes, when our colleagues were printing, we started using it even on the t-shirts. However, we are keeping on reinventing ourselves as people power, but the principle remains that we, all of us who believe that power belongs to the people, as enshrined in Article 1 of our Constitution, are coming together regardless of political party, regardless of religion, regardless of tribe. No, from wherever you come from, for as long as you are a Ugandan who is fed up of oppression, a Ugandan who wants to be part of his or her own country, we're coming together, okay, under this umbrella that we call people power.
People power. And of course, you say the discussion or conversations around you running for president in 2021 is premature and diversionary. But I'm still thinking these conversations are important to you. Don't you think you're just afraid of having that conversation? Don't you think you're just afraid of coming out to talk about this?
I think it would be irresponsible to start talking about positions of leadership now in a Uganda where we are. In a Uganda where I am member of parliament, I have a responsibility not only now to represent my constituency, but because I am connected to the people, especially the young people across the country, I find responsibility to open their eyes to this. Presidency is not any single person's responsibility. But what kind of presidency it is it? We even have a president now who is the boss, and yet we as citizens are supposed to be the boss. You understand? Okay. So I strongly believe that right now the issue should be how much people have been blinded. You know, if we talk about presidency, it will be reducing it to a few people. Now this job is for all Ugandans, okay, to free themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're not afraid to have that conversation? To state clearly that you want to run for president, because partly that's responsible for your troubles.
I don't believe you, because when we were arrested, 33 of us were arrested. We were all beaten so hard, but Honorable Zake is still in hospital, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, people have been beaten before me. If you knew what they did to Honorable Namboze, you know, what they've done to Dr. Besigye and all other freedom fighters. So let's not reduce this to individuals because people have paid the price.
Okay.
Yeah, let this be a national view where we don't just look at a new president, but look at a country where things work, where there's no corruption simply because all people understand that it is corruption that had sunk their country.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the time is finally mature, in 4 years, is that something that will cross Bobby's mind? Or Robert's mind?
We still have up to the end of this year to sort out, and you're asking me about 4 years.
So what is important is sorting out what you said. All right, let me ask you then, what is your kind of relationship with the head of state? What is your relationship with President Museveni?
I wish it was good. I don't know. The last time I heard the president speak, there were not very good words about me, but of course, I mean, I'm just a member of parliament, you know. I think I wish it was good because that's what it's supposed to be.
Okay. In my tradition, younger people reach out to the older people. Have you reached out to the president to try and find out what the matter is?
I've been in hospital, first of all, but because the president has been communicating on social media, I've reached out on social media. I've sent out.
You have responded on social media.
I mean, that is what in my culture, younger people learn from
the older people.
Yes.
No wonder he calls you indisciplined grandson. You've had that kind of name. You saw the statement. He called you our indisciplined grandson.
Yeah, you see, I'm not really an indisciplined grandson, but it's also important for our grandfathers to know that sometimes even the grandchildren tend to see. For example, now I am the kind of grandchildren who want to take care of the grandfather, you understand, even when the grandfather does not understand that it is important for the grandchildren to take care of him or her, you know. Yeah.
Okay. After that comment, there was a statement that was sent out by the president. I believe you were outside the country. Did you have a straight response to the president through the channels after he referred to you as an indisciplined? He was trying to discount your injuries and the theories that you were injured during the Aurora arrest.
Well, honestly, I still believe that it is not right for me to respond to everything that the president says. Even when I sometimes feel he's wrong, I tend to just respect him, you know, as our old man, you know, although I continue telling him what is right and what is wrong because it affects so many millions of people. But, you know, I also keep respect for him and, you know, I don't have to respond to everything, even if I feel that there should be a response.
Okay.
Yeah.
After the acrimonious way in which the age limit was passed in Parliament, there was a lot of sentiments, and at one time the majority whip said that you are lying to the people when you said Uganda was bleeding, and partly your statements at that time are believed to have sparked the row that was in Parliament. Would you take responsibility for that?
For opening the eyes of the people, including some MPs, yes, I take responsibility. For speaking the truth, yes, I take the responsibility. For the fight in Parliament, the Special Forces Command are responsible for that.
Okay.
Okay? When I said the country was bleeding, I meant it. In a country where citizens get killed and it is traced back to the security forces, you know, in a country where women and children die of immunizable diseases simply because the drugs are being stolen by government officials, that's a bleeding country, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
At one of the television stations during a show that you were sitting together with other people, including Mwenda, you claimed that the president has killed 500,000 people.
the president started an armed war that killed more than 500,000 people. That's a public secret, right? Everybody knows it. And that is the main reason why I despise violence. That is why I believe that even if I agree with whatever President Museveni was saying when he was my age, the only thing I disagree with him is that I believe it can be done peacefully, not through killing innocent Ugandans and bombing buildings. Yeah, we will speak truth to power and they will listen, because as they listen, even all Ugandans will be listening.
Okay.
And never again will they be asleep to the fact that they need freedom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask if you thought at that time when you made that statement, it was at the spur of the moment, you believed in it, or you thought it was an irresponsible statement after you made it?
When you
said that he has killed 500,000 people.
I never regret what I say. And when I have a slip of a tongue, I always apologize to whoever is offended, you know. But I want to assert that I'm not shy to say what I know, and that's why I'm not challenged in court
about your statements.
About my statements.
Okay.
Because it's the truth and only the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The president, there are several mechanisms that have been employed to reach out. You're a leader of your own right. You lead a number of people. You elected the popular vote. There are mechanisms. You meet the president. I've seen quite some functions that you met the president. Yes. What is the kind of relationship when you meet with the president? Does he treat you cordially? How does he treat you when you meet?
I want you to know that there is nothing personal between me and the president, and I believe or really hope that's the same, and that is the feeling I get when I meet him on public functions. I humbly shake his hand because he's our president, but it's under that same respect that I give our president that I get confidence to tell him the truth.
The confidence of shaking his hand.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a pleasure to shake his hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
The president has several cabinet ministers who some are related to him. You made one time a comment and claimed that the president's son is leading the army faction that protects the president. And the state responded and said that was a lie.
Actually, it was until recently that the president's son was leading the section of the army that guards the president.
Okay.
Yeah, you just changed, you go to Shufford recently.
So that was a factual statement?
That was a factual statement.
Okay.
Only differing in dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was factual. All right, Robert, I'd like to come back and talk more finally about other things. I'd like to mention the death of 2 policemen. I'd like your view on that plus. And then next, after this break, we'll talk about a cartoon that affects you. I'd like to see your response on that. Okay. Right, we'll take another break on Sidebar. Stay with us. We'll be right back. and welcome back to Sidebar. Let's now change this conversation and talk about issues that perhaps he grew up knowing and watching. In my mind is Besigye, the struggle that Besigye has gone through. First, tell me your analysis of how he has fought this fight and how you see perhaps he would have done it differently.
Well, I must say I have a lot of respect for Dr. Kizza Besigye. He's the one who opened many eyes of young people. You know, he stood up to injustice, even in the time when very few people saw the excesses of the current government. And for that I hold him in high regard. Okay. But in the same way, I also acknowledge the contribution of all the other freedom fighters that I've seen as I grow up, that resisted the injustice when it had first showed its head. People like Dr. Paul Kawanga Semogerere, you know, people like the Uganda Young Democrats, and all the other members of other parties like the FDC who have been there, people like General Muntu who stood up to his boss and said that is wrong. So I really have so much respect for all the freedom fighters that have come before us. You know, they've opened our eyes, and now we also see, and I hope we can also open more eyes. Yeah.
And of course the regime has or had been very brutal on Kizza Besigye, and the crackdown has been intense and immense, and at one point he was even under house arrest, not even once. And you are leading this struggle. You're seen as the de facto leader. A lot of people have associated you with the same journey Kizza has walked, Dr. Besigye has walked, but at the back of your mind you always realize the regime has been very brutal about his being outspoken.
Yeah, I've always seen this, and I knew what to expect, but it was easy, it was much better, you know, to speak out and face the outcome than suffer in silence, you know. And not just about me. Every time I travel outside my country and I come back, I see the challenges, I see the differences, I see what other people have been able to achieve, and I wonder why we cannot achieve it. So that to me pushes, gives me reason to wake up every day and struggle for better, because I know that this is my home and this is going to be home to my children and children's children. So I better make it better. I better make it better than having to, you know, having to just imagine what I could have done when I'm old.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The issue of Besigye and the state crackdown brings me to perhaps a wound that you not like to open right now, the death of your driver, Yasin Kamura. And of course there is other deaths like Mohammed Kirumira and of course Felix Kawesi. And a lot of these deaths have been attributed to the struggle. For example, Mohammed Karumira has been seen widely as a policeman who stood for reform. Sadly, he died about a fortnight or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it is sad that we lost our brothers, and that's all that there was. No report, no nothing. But again, I must mention that the ones that are known or mentioned are the celebrities, but so many people keep dying in uncertain circumstances and they pass away silently. So that alone is supposed to remind you about the sorry state of our governance, because we have a police, but it is more interested in playing politics than doing its constitutional mandate. Here in Uganda, you know, a police officer was recently seen giving out money on behalf of the president. That's not the duty of the police officer.
But how did they know it was on behalf of the president?
Because they said so.
Because he said so?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, it is important for the police to do is noble duty of guarding and protecting the lives and property of the citizens, other than playing politics. Otherwise, the more they divert from their constitutional mandate, is the more the situation deteriorates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you describe Uganda, the modern day Uganda, as a military state or a police state?
Yes.
Which one? Which one? Military or police state?
I think Uganda has slowly degenerated into a military state. And to confirm this, look at the day I was coming back from treatment when the whole airport was besieged by the military. Military took over the work of the police on all police stations. You know, it's a military state.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me bring in your family now. You young. I just realized you're just about a year older than me, and of course you have a young family. What do they tell you? Do they urge you on? Don't they fear that you increasingly touching live wires?
Well, my family fears. But what can they do? Nothing. You know, they know what I'm doing is right, and they stand with me. But again, they keep expecting the worst every day, you know. They've seen this before. However, we keep praying together. Every time I get with them, you know, I try to make them, you know, feel strong. But it's challenging also.
Okay. Yeah. Your children, how do you explain to them, for example, being in hospital for a week, disappearing and not being able to talk to your wife, Bobby, and your children? How do you explain to them?
Man, it's hard. You know? Yeah, but the children, Bobby helps me talk to them, and then I also talk to them. Okay. I explain to them the situation, that the kind of country that we are living in and how we can make it better. And they agree with me that I've got to do what I've got to do. Okay. Yeah.
Yourself, do you fear each time you drive out of your gate? Because I even realized, and a few people I've spoken to tell me you don't even walk around with bodyguards. Sometimes you drive yourself. Do you fear sometimes you might walk out of these gates and you'll not be able to come back?
Yeah.
Is that one of your motivations?
Yeah. It motivates me a lot, knowing that every time, every day I live it as if it's the last one. So I make sure I multiply myself when I find a brother like Ken, you know, have a conversation and let them see the things the way I see them, you know. But every day God keeps blessing me with another day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, as we end, I'd like you to take a look at this cartoon and share with me your views about it. All right, what do you think of this artistic impression?
It's funny in a not nice way, because you realize that this monstrous gunman is moving with a tank and then also shooting with a small gun. But because people are so many, as they die, they keep falling in the way where the tank is supposed to pass, which shows you that at one time, even just the hip-hop bodies could block the tank from going any further. And then this guy could not brutalize people again. And yes, what it says, no matter how many of us you kill, we shall always outnumber you. It is a rude reminder that, you know, by the time you outnumber the killer, he has killed so many. So it's a rude reminder that we must not only outnumber him, We must out-organize him. You see me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Your favorite part now. Let's go back to Bobi. There are 3 songs. I want you to choose one and either give us a chorus or the first 2 lines. That's Time Bomb, Situka, and of course, There Is Freedom. Which one for you?
Okay. This one, I did Time Bomb way back. I was even broke. Yeah. I like Time Bomb. It says, I would like to communicate about the things that we have to eliminate, the ignorance and poverty to eradicate, all these ghetto youth them to educate. Yo, don't you try to politicize, don't say Bobi Wine him criticize. No, sensitize, me sensitize, cause I know that my people must realize the most important thing, that true liberty begins in your mindset. To free ghetto people, they must educate, but education is expensive to get. It's like you say we carry water in a basket.
What inspires that song? Because it sounds very political, but from what you told me earlier, by 2016 you're not even thinking of running for office.
You see, that time I'd started getting attacks from the regime about my music. You know, some songs were being banned on radio, saying they're calling upon people to be violent. And that's why I said, you know, I wanted to open people's minds so that they see it for themselves. And I said, true liberty begins in your mindset.
Okay.
To free ghetto people, they must educate, although education is expensive to get, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Quite a nice song, but Freedom still does something for me. Perhaps also give us a line of Freedom.
Okay, Freedom. We go so. We are living in a time similar to the one of slave trade. This oppression is worse than apartheid. The gun is the master, the citizen slave. The pearl of Africa is bleeding. Question, what was the purpose of the liberation when we can't have a peaceful transition? What is the purpose of the constitution when you charge me because of my... Again? Where is my freedom of expression when you charge me because of my expression? What is the purpose of the constitution when the government disrespect the constitution? Say what you're doing to our nation. What are you teaching the future generation? See, our leaders become misleaders, and see, our mentors become tormentors. Freedom fighters become dictators. They look at the youth and say we are detractors. Pull up.
Really,
yeah,
really nice. Really
yeah,
nice.
It has an intro that I like that goes so. Freedom comes to those who fight, but not to those who cry. Because the more you cry, is the more your people continue to die. So rise and free, fight for your rights.
Wow.
You see that?
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
A little chorus for that.
A little chorus.
Yes.
Of what song now?
Freedom. Freedom.
I say we are fighting for freedom. Kampala Mukolumba Jinja. We are fighting for freedom. Ayo, ayo, ayo. We are fighting for freedom. Watoto wa Kenya ute ute. We are fighting for freedom. By the way, before I even forget, man, I have not gotten any special time to thank.
I'm gonna talk about
You're
that.
You're gonna get there.
I'm gonna talk about that. Yeah. Okay, of course you've thrown Kenyans in there, and if I let you not sing the chorus of Situka, the very popular songs, even online, just a little, the chorus just for Situka. Then
Situka.
Yes.
I go so. Situka tutambule mbera emala mamanyi naye tupo watugende tupo watutambule olugendo luwanvu bwe tulemera kututuka. That's a sad song.
It's a sad song. You look at the interpretation. I look at it online when they were doing the interpretations, and it's a really sad song. And I just like to know how you came up with that song, because it touches a lot of people, and the people also touches other people. I'm going to talk to you next about.
Man, music is a way of communication. Is a way of expression. Now there's so many people out there that I was very sure are going through what I'm going through. So how to widely communicate is just to do a song and put my soul in that song. I pour my soul out in that song, and that's what I always do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. When you were arrested, I know you know about this. Kenyans had a hashtag which was shared across. Hashtag free Bobi Wine. Did you see the hashtag?
I saw the hashtag, but I saw it later. You see, when I was in military detention or even later on in prison, I did not get an opportunity to have a phone or access a computer. So I did not know what was going on out there in the world.
You didn't know it got down?
I did not
to
know. So when I came out of jail and I saw the tweets from Kenya, how the different leaders and MPs and artists in Kenya stood with us, I was humbled. I was humbled that our brothers, our neighbors can be as concerned about our own plight. And Ugandans will forever be grateful to Kenya. It actually reminded me that it was not even the first time. Kenya has always been standing with Uganda in all the fights against oppression.
Besieger days, Dr. Kiza,
Yes.
we had Kenyans speak about it.
Kenyans
But
took him
this is
to the
one hashtag that even our legislators, top senators took, and you could see them expressing themselves.
Man, like I said, I was humbled. Of course, I'm in touch with most of the legislators and the leaders and the activists, and guys, you know, we were humbled to know that you have your eyes on us, and I pray that you keep your eyes on us as we also promise to keep our eyes on you. We are our brothers keepers, right? Okay. So it felt so together. We didn't feel like we were crying in the dark, like crying alone. We felt like our brothers were there, and we continue to, you know, interact with the brothers and sisters from Kenya, and I also hope to visit Kenya pretty soon, you know.
Okay, thank you very much. Webari. And of course, when you come to Kenya, we'd like to host you again and talk about the developments, and we wish you really well, get well really quickly, and I hope Babi is taking good care of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been good having you.
And God bless you. Thank you for hosting us in your home.
Cheers.
Right, and we still have time back coming up. We'd like to talk about what we have spoken about in context of what happened in the past. But let's take a look at some of your feedback on this interview. Remember, it was being watched across in Uganda, right here in the country, and there's been a lot of feedback from it. And to begin with, Michael Manyande, who says His Excellency Bobi Wine is a true definition of a leader. His confidence, positive mind, and ability to inspire is so high. We need leaders who will say the truth and represent the common mwananchi. Hilary Musyoki says His Excellency Bobi Wine is one of the chosen few, youth speaking the mind of the whole generation, speaking his mind without fear or favor, the kind of leaders Africa wants. Hashtag Cyber. Wanyoy Kenjino said he's a true definition of a leader, unlike other politicians. Isaiah Abeka says a very intelligent and articulate, well-informed young man, great spirit. At least you beat great conversation. And Masaki Hillary says he's watching all the way from Malaba border. Actually, Bobi Wine is a true leader. I like how he speaks. The truth keep going. Ugandans and even Kenyans are behind. I liken you to Luther King Jr. and Julius Malema. And Daudi Mkuru says great mentorship from this interview. His ideas are extraordinary. And Engineer Kwenet to Leto says I love the honesty of Honorable Bobi Wine and the servant leadership attitude he portrays. Wish our leaders can learn from him. Daniel Ongeri, I hear His Excellency Bobi Wine speak as a young person. I feel that he's speaking on behalf of millions of youth across the African continent. And Simon Peter Murimi, amazing how Bobi Wine has remained unbroken, unshaken, gathering strength from distress, invaluable perspective. And Motherland Alfred O. Jumapili says he is smart, responding to my questions with lots of insight and forevision. And Baba San raises a fundamental question right here. All those sycophants pretending to represent the youth in the Kenyan parliament should bow down when His Excellency Bobi Wine talks. And Festo says this man is full of wisdom, man. I like how he listens and answers questions. He is sober. And Mosoli Ken says, doing what you're doing, you must keep guts. You must have guts and the courage of a young lion. Keep doing what you do best. Results will come later. And Pamba official, it's enough to term this as Bobby C's. And the C's are composure, courage, confidence, and calculated choices of words. And Edwin Nyakweba, finally, I think this is the last one. I admire Bobi Wine. He's resilient and determined to make an impact in Uganda, like the young Kenyan members of parliament who are just out there to be bribed with 10,000 shillings in toilets and fighting all over and causing drama. I hope they are taking notes. All right, and finally, last week we were in Kampala to interview Bobi Wine. In fact, one of the questions we asked him is if he thought Uganda was a police or military state, which you know the answer because I know you watched the interview. While we were in Kampala, we could not help but notice trucks and trucks of military and police patrolling the streets in a fashion that reiterated who was in charge. And because today we featured a Ugandan politician, but now you have an idea of what happened when he came back from treatment abroad. Now let's remind you of yet another occasion when Kampala was taken over by the security personnel. February 1981, 5 years before President Yoweri Museveni took over. Now this was the headline, Kampala, a city of fear. Back home in the last few days, one of the conversations we have had and dominated the headlines is Deputy President William Ruto claiming over the weekend that ODM leader Raila Odinga intends to edge him out in the Jubilee Party. He went ahead to call him a political conman and told him off. As expected, the reactions have been swift. Now, the DP went ahead to remind Raila Odinga of how many parties he has left, notwithstanding that Ruto himself has left several parties. Now, the year is 1995, we've shown you on the screen, and months after the death of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, the month is April. The headline is Wamalwa must go, says Raila Odinga. He was then Langata Member of Parliament, and in the words of the Nation newspaper, he shed pretense over simmering Ford Kenya leadership row and vowed, quote, to remove Kijana Wamalwa from party leadership, claiming the opposition leader was no longer credible. To quote him, Mr. Wamalwa must go. He has soiled his hands through corrupt deals and has proven incapable of leading ambitious opposition party like Ford Kenya, end of quote. Now, Odinga made specific allegations about questionable deals Wamalwa allegedly got into in relation to the Golden Bag scandal, ostensibly to protect the farm at the Public Accounts Committee session. It's a good place to end tonight. Thank you for watching Sidebar from across the EC, and my name is Ken Mijungu. We'll do this again. That's across EAC, that's East Africa Community. We'll do this again next week, same place, same time. Thank you, and thank you for my crew, both in Uganda and right here at home, for making this possible.
Freedom comes to those who fight, but not to those who cry. Because the more you cry, is the more your people continue to die. So rise, defend your rights. Yaga, 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 yaga. Why? Give me the man's time. I don't know why the corruption is too much. Yaka, yaka, yaka. Why the price of electricity